Hello, this is and I am Kitty Hollywood. Today's review is of the monumentally wet masterpiece of 1939, The Rains Came, released by 20th Century Fox. This film was produced by Darryl F. Zanuck and Harry Jo Brown. It was directed by Clarence Brown, music by Alfred Newman, costumes by Gwen Wakeling, and it stars Tyrone Power, Myrna Loy, George Brent, Brenda Joyce, Nigel Bruce, H.B. Warner, and Maria Uspenskaya. Now, this film was based on the best-selling novel by Lewis Bromfield, who was a Pulitzer Prize winner. And it was a broad scope of a novel dealing with India and its politics. The film is more, I got a bunch of beautiful people having relationships, we need somewhere to put it. India, yeah, India. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's Sunday afternoon, it's cold, it's rainy, you want to watch some old glamorous film with lots of really excellent Hollywood Indian architecture, and this is your film. This is it. I mean, okay, the story. There's a disillusioned artist, there's a young ingenue, there's a westernized Indian doctor, there's a wealthy married hussy, there's a nasty brute of a man, there's a Maharaja, and there's a Maharani. Rain ensues. So much rain. Look, as I've said, this was a very, very popular novel. There was a lot of casting conjecture when it was announced it was going into pre-production, and one of the combinations put out there was Major Safdie, which is Tyrone Power's role, was to be played by Charles Boyer or Cesar Romero. Lady Esketh was to be played by Marlene Dietrich, and Tom Ransom was to be played by Ronald Colman. Now, this would have made such a different film. I mean, just Myrna Loy, Marlene Dietrich, just two completely different planets. Tyrone Power was the major star of this film. He was only 25 years old, but he was huge in Hollywood. And look, it's not the most enlivening performance you've ever seen. He's very, very pretty, but to give him his due, later on in his career, especially the film Nightmare Alley, he is excellent and he's really, really amazing. So thumbs up, Tyrone Power. I really like him. Myrna Loy, although she started playing exotic Eurasian creatures when she first came to Hollywood, she'd moved into the I am a perfect wife roles, and I think this was perhaps her attempt to break away from that a little bit in this, and she's excellent. Look, Nigel Bruce is also cast against type in this film. I mean, seriously, you want the dictionary definition of comeuppance? Anyway, look, I could spend the rest of this review talking about all of the actors, and I'll try not to soon. George Brent, he's good. Brenda Joyce, first film role, H.B. Warner, good. Maria Uspenskaya is excellent. She learnt the Stanislavski method from Stanislavski. She was a white Russian. She only acted when her astrologer gave her the thumbs up. Apparently everyone hated her. She's great. The interesting thing about this film is that you've got your A names for the film, but there's also this, they're not even B-listers really, they're top-notch character actors who also inhabit this film. There's Jane Darwell, who's best known from Grapes of Wrath. There's Henry Travers from It's a Wonderful Life. There's Laura Hope Cruz from Gone with the Wind, Aunt Pity Pat. And so you've got this interesting, I'm an incredibly famous movie star, but utter respect for these character actors, and they all work together to make this film really the fascinating thing that it is. There are rumours that the character of Lady Esketh was based on Edwina Mountbatten, who apparently was known for her relationships with copper Apollos.
Who's the pale copper Apollo?
Major Safdie.
Not bad.
Who am I to say whether or not this is true? I am not, and I'm not saying anything. It's not the most racially sensitive film you will ever see.
Vanity.
Marriage. Puppy.
It's kind of all thumbs up to the Indians as long as they try and be a bit Western. For 1939 though, it's really not that bad. There is very little fuss made about the relationship between Major Safdie and Lady Esketh. The production code of the time actually forbade interracial relationships being portrayed on the screen, and this film manages to get away with it, spoilers, by you never see them kiss. I guess that's how they got around it. But look, that's not a terrible thing. It's fine. You'll cope, because the film looks so beautiful. The cinematographer was by Arthur C. Miller, who is no relation. And it shines. It's this brilliant, sparkling thing right up until the time you get to the special effects. I mean, the rains came. This film won the first ever Academy Award for Best Special Effects, and deservedly so. I mean, look at the title sequence. It's great. Complete side note. 1939, the 10 films that were nominated for Best Academy Award were Gone with the Wind, Goodbye Mr. Chips, Love Affair, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Ninotchka, Of Mice and Men, Stagecoach, The Wizard of Oz, and Wuthering Heights. I mean, geez, talk about a good year. Anyway, the special effects were masterminded by Fred Serson, in particular, the visual special effects, and from a sound point of view, Edmund H. Hansen. They are extraordinary. Look, I don't know a lot about the creation of special effects. I know that there were miniatures, I know there were matte paintings, I know there were tanks and tanks, there were reservoirs of water, and there were lots of people getting very, very wet. But really, I watched this film and you're sitting there and there's earthquakes and the ground comes apart and people fall down into crevasses, and there's no CG going on here, and there are huge walls of water thundering down against a wall, and there are people against the wall, and then the waves come and the people aren't there anymore, and you think, well, but where did they go? These real people that they're talking about here. And I mean, I believe it was a very skillful blend of two different pieces of footage, but there were also amazing performances by stuntmen. And there are actors. There is Tyrone Power, there is George Brent, there are Brenda Joyce in boats getting rained on very heavily with water slushing them about, and they get out of the boats and they get up and they act for a little bit and then they get back in the boat and they paddle. It's just breathtaking. Look, seriously, considering the year that it was made, it's a piece of work.
Steady, old girl.
It makes up for the long-winded monologues and the slightly clunky, I don't know where this film is going moments. I would honestly rate The Rains Came almost a 10 out of 10 because it's perfect old Hollywood glamour film. There's some destruction, there's some death, there's lots of beauty, there's some sparkling jewels, there's bits of I don't know what's happening. But you sit down and you just get into this gorgeous, comfortable morass of this is cozy old Hollywood. So watch it, man. Watch The Rains Came. It's great.